Hello right bags, it's Jade back with another Cyberpunk, I guess, hate bait video. I hate using that term, but honestly, that's kind of what it is. It's just something that interests me. We'll go into that in a second, but CD Projekt are just making even more stupid decisions and are pretty much just lying to us. I am invested in this because I have bought the game and I want to see it actually succeed a little bit better than it is doing, or at least get some fixes and promises delivered. But today has got even more news about how CD Projekt are pretty much lying through their teeth. Refunds were said by them you could go and get, and it turns out that's a big fat lie. We're going to go through an actual proper response that they sent me in an email, and then we're going to go through the hundreds of examples I've seen, although we won't be going through hundreds, don't worry, of players not being able to get refunds on the PlayStation. But even bigger than that, if you thought CD Projekt couldn't maybe do any worse, they have just managed to upset everyone again. This time with their storefront, GOG. Turns out CD Projekt, the edgelords of the internet, the guys that want to put whatever they want in their games, have bowed down to China. Now again, hence why I'm putting this out there. I'm not really this kind of hate bait channel, but it does seem that they have actually taken a game off their storefront because of Chinese censorship. I'm going to cover all that and really go into town about why people are upset. It's gone beyond bugs and issues with the actual game now. It's about how the developers have acted, what they've done wrong, why they've lied, and pretty much the trust that they've built up over so many years has just gone to shit. So yeah, don't worry, I'm not going to be doing this every day, but it is interesting to me. I have got a copy of the game, as I said, and I'm looking forward to hopefully playing it when it is in a better state. So I told you guys the other day that they put a post out saying that people would be able to get refunds from the storefronts they bought it if they were unhappy with the Xbox or PlayStation based game versions. They also said that they didn't pay enough attention to them versions. They outlined that they're going to have 2 updates in January and February to hopefully make the experience a little bit more better. And if there's any more problems, you can go and email them at helpmerefund@CD Projekt Red. So some of you guys were pretty happy with this. It seemed like the developer has made a mistake, has come straight out the bat and said sorry. But there are substantial issues with this. Number one, most people that bought the game physically will not be able to get a refund. You try getting a refund in the USA on a game like this, they'll just flatly tell you no. If you've opened it, if you've played it, they're just going to turn around and say be lucky. It's pretty much the same story in the UK. You may be lucky to get some sort of exchange or credit note, but unless you can prove the game is faulty beyond doubt, even though there's plenty of news going around that it is, you won't necessarily get the refund that you're looking for. It seems the Xbox refund policy is a bit better. Within 2 weeks, you can go into your Microsoft store purchases and just go ahead and refund it, and most people are finding that that's okay. I'll bet there are still some stipulations. The big problem comes with PlayStation. PlayStation won't allow you to get a refund if you've already downloaded the game to a console. Despite it being broken, they've actually listed and sent a bunch of replies to all sorts of people to say actually the game isn't broke, updates will be coming in. So again, if you manage to get a refund on the PlayStation, do let me know. I didn't really show this off last time, but I think it's definitely worth pointing out once more, just for the naysayers. You can enjoy your game. You can say to me that you're enjoying Cyberpunk on your 3080. You can enjoy it on the Xbox Series X or your PS5. No problem. You can tell me you've only had a few bugs, even playing it on an Xbox One X or One. It has gone beyond what we think about the game and its bugs. It's more about what the developers are doing so badly, and that is communicating properly with fans. Before we get onto the China bit, let's go through some of this stuff. They had an investors call yesterday where the guy, Michael Nowadsky, I'm probably saying his name completely wrong, pretty much said actually the game is playable right now. That may be an important thing to state because it's not like the game does not launch or is unplayable. That's sharp contrast to what actually they put out in their Twitter statement here. We should have paid more attention to making it play better on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. But it's this line that this article from First Post highlights, that on the 30th November, they pretty much said the game is in a good state. Adam Sinski noted, of course, a bit lower than on Pro consoles, but surprisingly good. I would say for such a huge world, that's the answer. This statement that lists everything they said in that conference call does reiterate that the base console versions are acting pretty well, and that is just far from the truth. We definitely did not spend enough time looking at last gen performance. So in Monday's call they went on to say it's a gigantic world, so at launch there'll always be some glitches and problems on various configurations. But with regard to the console experience, we already fixed a lot of crashes with the last hotfix, and this time again we'll be mostly looking at crashes and game breaking bugs. That he acknowledged the game breaking bugs is interesting because just a couple short weeks earlier Kaczynski had claimed, "We believe the level of bugs will be low enough that they will not stand out from the perspective of gamers. Unfortunately, some bugs which came up in extended previews were related to the game's general features, so to speak, and many of them are already fixed." So lies again. They go on to try and explain why they never showed console versions of the game running earlier. This is the big reason for me. It's not about bugs, it's about what they've done. They didn't allow anyone to review the game on a console. Didn't matter, even an Xbox Series X or Xbox One or whatever, PS5, you were not allowed to actually do that. You were not allowed to show footage in the very first round of reviews that they allowed to post. It all had to be footage from their B-roll. They also sent really high-end graphics cards to a lot of streamers and influencers to show the game off too. Now, the reason they've stated that was because the reason is that we were updating the game on last-gen consoles until the very last minute, and we thought we'd make it in time. We were just fixing the game until the very last moment, said Iwinski. But if you go back once more, in June last year, the lead designer, Paul Sasko, said, "Right now we're focused on PC, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. One of the things we learned with The Witcher 3 was you should not delay working on the console versions ever. So at all times we have a version running for everything. In terms of the performance on last-gen consoles," he added, "but the important thing to us is it will be fluid, it will play on your machine, and that is just not okay. It is not playing for a lot of people." A month later, CD Projekt Alvin Liu told one publication that the graphics are quite amazing for what you're going to get from Cyberpunk 2077 on consoles and low-end PCs. And we're focused on delivering a really good experience on current gen consoles. When the next generation happens, we'll assess and figure out the best way forward. I would say we are not a greedy company, so fans should expect a very fair offering with whatever we decide to do. And then only in October, again, another one of the leads. I'm not going to keep mentioning their names because I'm not about actually attacking or getting people riled up against developers. It is definitely more about just in general the management and the overall project. I wouldn't say there's a problem because there's nothing wrong with Xbox or PS4 versions. There's optimization to be handled. Seconds later, he repeated, "There is no problem with Xbox or PlayStation 4, to be honest." Now here's where it gets more spicy. After that statement where they said you could go and apply for refunds, as I said, PlayStation aren't allowing them by and large. Like, you might get really lucky with one particular caller, but there's been lots of evidence from people now showing and stating that they've just not been able to get their refund. This thread is one of them conversations, and it's pretty much copy and paste print job from lots of others. You ask for a refund in the chat box, and this is a long process that you have to go through. You may have to take quite a bit of time to do this. PlayStation bots will pretty much tell you that 2 large game patches in January and February should resolve many of the issues you're currently experiencing, which is bonkers. You're literally arguing with someone at PlayStation about whether or not a game's going to be fixed in the next 2 months, and you have to rely on the developer's word only. And pretty much they're refusing anyone that tries to get this refund on the basis that you've tried downloading it already. Here's the reply I got. I sent a message off to the actual email. I said I wasn't happy with my PlayStation 4 version of the game. Pretty much it says, "Don't bother replying, this is automated. If you own a digital copy of the game on Xbox, visit the Xbox support article for details on how to refund. If you own a digital copy on PlayStation, please wait for us to get back to you. For help with other Cyberpunk 2077 related matters, please visit our technical support website." And that is it. I've literally just got to wait now and hope and pray that they'll come and try and resolve it at some point. The other aspect to this is that they said you've only got to the 21st of December to use this email. And it's a crazy long time to be waiting just to resolve something like this. One thing I think a lot of people are trying to point out, and staunch defenders of Cyberpunk, is that lots of other games have had issues. Watch Dogs recently wasn't exactly bug-free. Assassin's Creed Valhalla had problems and crashes. I think it is down to that developer. It's down to expectations. And it is down to the way that developers talk. The developers of CD Projekt have been pretty open and talking blasé about what they see is wrong with the industry sometimes. They became a focal point for what's good about game developers, how they treat their consumers with the correct manner. I'll bet some stuff to do with not maybe representing certain communities better. And of course the crunch, which every studio has, so I'm not necessarily going to blare them out for that as well, even though it's definitely a subject that needs to be revisited in light of the fact that Cyberpunk is such a mess. But they definitely put themselves out there as a poster boy of what a consumer friendly developer could be or publisher could be. So I think that's stage one of why it's went so bad. The second stage is that reluctance to show people what was actually running. Watch Dogs and Assassin's Creed, loads of people had early access to it. There was streamers, I was given early access a week before. You could try it on, show it on Xbox or PlayStation, whatever you wanted. There was no restrictions about what platform you could show. Of course, there were some restrictions about embargo content and when your review could go live. But other than that, it was pretty good actually, that you could stream the game days before release and show people actually what the experience was like for everyone, whether or not you was on an Xbox, a PlayStation or a PC. And then yeah, all that stuff I just went through, I think that's the third stage, that have been talking up and showing and saying that it's actually running pretty well. We saw some rumours that there were problems with the current gen, but as we saw at many occasions, they've defended and said that actually no, it's running fine, everything's okay. Now add the new problems where you can't get a refund unless you go through some hoops. You're not sure you'll get a refund by contacting this email and waiting for however long. It really paints a picture of a developer that has just made some terrible decisions. Now we're definitely going to still have some dickheads trying to say other stuff about the game. What do you expect, man? You can't expect a 7-year-old game to be running on old gen consoles. Shut up, you idiots. This game was announced for Xbox and PS4, not Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. At various other times, I've shown you guys that have said it's running well. Promo and market material was all geared towards PC and console. They've been at many showcases for either Microsoft or Sony showing off stuff. Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us Part 2, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, top games that have been rated pretty well. All running and looking fantastic, with bugs yes, but not to the level that Cyberpunk has, and certainly not to the amount of ridiculous hype and hyperbole that the developers have really spewed out from CG Projekt. So this is very different. That's why I've got no time for people that say, what do you expect? I expect a game that gets announced 7 years ago to run okay on my current gen. If you don't expect that, then you're an idiot. There are plenty of examples with the rest of the industry showing fantastic ways that you can get your game running. And let's face it, Cyberpunk isn't as ambitious as everyone is trying to make out. By the sounds of it, it's pretty much just a standard RPG, albeit in the Cyberpunk universe. I've seen arguments that the Outer Worlds might be more ambitious in terms of what it does. But that is very subjective, all that stuff. I'm not hating on the game if you're enjoying it or loving it and you haven't got the problems. I'm glad you're actually having that experience. But you can't discount what other people are feeling just because you're having an okay time, especially when there's so many people not having a good time. So there we go guys, that is what I think about the situation. They lied, they continuously lied, and they're still doing it now in their latest investment call, contradicting exactly what they've said in their statement about refunds, that they have no special policy in place with PlayStation or Xbox to get a refund, hence why so many people are getting turned away on the PlayStation platform. You have to pretty much fuck up massively to get a terrible score from IGN when you're a big loved game. And they've just given the actual base console versions a review score of 4. Don't play Cyberpunk on base Xbox One or PS4. It's a shockingly bad way to experience what is a fantastic RPG on better hardware. I'll also say it and repeat it again for the dickheads in the back shouting out loud. There's only a few million of the next gen consoles floating around. There's 120 million PlayStation 4s. There's like 45 million Xbox Ones floating about. It's going to take years before the next gen catches up anywhere near to the kind of number that the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One pretty much had. So this is the majority way that people are playing their game. They're playing it on base Xboxes or PlayStations, or even the Pro or the Xbox X versions are still not necessarily that much better. 41% of the pre-orders were on console, 3.8 million to be exact. There aren't even any physical copy editions of the game running on Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5, and so the only way you can buy it is by picking up the PS4 or the Xbox One versions. And so yeah, it's not really running on next gen for as many people as think. So right now you want to be keeping down low, yeah? You don't want to be upsetting anyone else, let's just keep it all nice and quiet. Maybe not if you're CG Projekt Red. Let's just go and piss off everyone else by bowing down to Chinese censorship. Earlier today it was announced that the game Devotion is coming to GOG. After receiving many messages from gamers, we've decided not to list the game in our store. I have never really heard of Devotion. I totally must have missed this when it came out last year and the controversy that happened as well. It's pretty much a first person horror puzzle game. It's made by a Taiwanese development team. set in the 80s, and it seems like it was received extremely well. Lots of people giving it great scores. But 2 days later, basically Chinese players complained that the game referenced a funny meme, or more a political meme in their eyes, which took the mick out of their president Xi Jinping and Winnie the Pooh. I don't know the significance of it, I can only guess, but it definitely seems to be something to referring to the president as, I guess, a cuddly teddy bear who's maybe a bit useless. It's so bad that in the past China has banned Winnie the Pooh movies. Maybe that's why this is actually a funny thing for a lot of people, and particularly Taiwan, which obviously is an annexed state of China. In the end, they had to stop selling the game in China. They had to take it off store shelves. Publishers cut their ties with the game, and they had to take the game globally off of Steam to fix technical issues, as well as confirm that no other hidden messages remained. Their license was revoked to make games in China, and it seems like they've had a pretty rough deal of it. Yet 2 days ago, they did announce on GOG that the game would be available on the store, but literally only a few hours later saying that nope, they're going to take it off. From the outside looking in, it looks like GOG, who owners are obviously CD Projekt, are bowing down to Chinese kind of influence. They want to sell Cyberpunk in China, worried about maybe impacts of maybe their storefront operate in China as well. They've actually taken it down because of the Chinese censorship rather than messages from gamers. It doesn't elaborate what these messages are or what reason it could possibly be, and the replies are filled with industry people basically saying this is horrible. This is all about backing the Chinese regime and not about the independence of a game maker. Not upsetting the government so you can make even more money. Literally, they just want to make money in China and they don't care about what really is morally right or okay. So yeah, another thing to go with the controversy. It's not been a good week for CD Projekt. I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon. People might be sick and tired of it already. They may feel people are just piling on it. As I said, you're enjoying your game. Well done you. I think I've hopefully shown guys enough now. The lies, the amount of stuff that's been spewed over the last couple of years. And just really, it's like seeing your uncle decidedly become really horrible when he's drunk. Or finding out a favourite celebrity turns out to be a piece of garbage. You feel let down that someone you actually admired or thought was doing good, on the most part, could actually fall from grace so hard. I guess that's my problem with them as well. Like, I've always held them up and said they're doing great stuff. I'm sure it'll be blown over in a while. They'll do a No Man's Sky, and well, I mean, that's what it's been compared to a little bit as well. Maybe not that bad, but yeah, I'm sure they'll update the game and players will appreciate it once more. But just the decisions they've made has just meant that they have been lying and they have been going out their way to really launch the game in a dodgy, not truthful fashion. My name's Jade. I sometimes talk about stuff I'm interested in like this. Make sure you're subscribed and notified on if you want to see more about survival and open world games news generally. I'll see you ratbags later.